It seems liberals have not learned their lesson yet. Massachusetts Democrat Seth Moulton is facing backlash for saying how members of his own party spend too much time trying, quote, not to offend on topics like trans athletes, saying, quote, I have two little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, maybe he should have been afraid because the woke mob was not happy. A top Democrat in Moulton's hometown of Salem wants him replaced, allegedly, listen to this, even calling him a Nazi cooperator. And there's a pro-trans rally against Moulton being held in his hometown this weekend. But the congressman says the backlash proves his point.
It completely proves my point. I mean, I was using this as one of many examples where the Democratic Party has lost touch with the American people. But the problem is that we're so insistent on, policing our words and even refusing to engage in debates about contentious issues that we're just losing on them.
And will they come after AOC next? She apparently just took her pronouns off her X account. So, Greg, we are all left to wonder AOC's gender. What are we to do?
It's hard. I'd say, thank God I know what a woman is, and she's all woman. It's fitting that his hometown is Salem, because this is the new witch trials. Even after America has told them, no, you aren't the majority and your ideas are crazy, especially on autogynephilia, they can't let go. And here's why. Because we just didn't turn the page. We threw out their entire book. And it was the only book they've been reading. It's like we burned the Bible, the first testament of identity politics, and they have no other language. They don't know how to speak. And the reason is identity politics was never about thinking. It was about not thinking. You begin and end on who you are, and the issues that follow are irrelevant. So the fact that I am trans takes priority over the concern of girls changing in front of creepy men in locker rooms. What comes first is I am trans. The activist zeal keeps people from speaking out. That's the way it's intended. That's why the trans issue was the most important one, because it wasn't about the numbers. It was about the impact on others and compelling others to bend to what many believe is a fetish cult.
Yeah, and a lot of people said we want normalcy. We don't want biological men and women's sports. Jesse, there's a fascinating piece in the Times, and it is about undecided voters. And the moment they said, I've got to go for Trump, and there's this 25-year-old named McLean, and she said, I shocked myself and voted for Trump. No one tell my family. I think I became radicalized on the men and women sports issue. The ad that said Kamala represents they, them, Trump represents you, that was so compelling. She goes on to say she doesn't really like Trump, but he was team normal.
Yeah, now all the Democrats are whining to Schumer that they never got any help when they got crushed with these they-them ads. Now, Greg just made such a good point, but he speaks so quickly, no one heard it. He said that identity politics made people not think, and that's such a great point. And I don't want to say anything else nice about you because you have a huge ego, but
that's true.
This does kind of reflect what the party's going through right now. How to be a working class party, but also how to be a woke party. Problem is woke and working class doesn't mix. It's like oil and water or oil and vinegar, whatever it is. It doesn't mix. You can't have oil and vinegar. You can't have them both at the same time. Now, if you're highly evolved like I am,
yes,
I can treat people with respect and dignity if they have different lifestyles or different identities. But what I don't do is I don't allow those lifestyles and identities to impose their agenda on the rest of society. That's where they get caught up. Now, what I don't understand is they don't understand math, because it's like 0.1% of the population cares, but it's taken over their whole party. It's because this 0.1% is so damn loud, and they're so damn feisty, and they're the ones in the streets, and they're the ones in Hollywood, and a lot of them are in the media. So they're punching way above their weight, and they don't have anybody in the party to tell them to knock it off. That's why they need Rahm Emanuel. Right now, they're begging Rahm Emanuel to come in and run the DNC. They're begging a straight white man to come in and say, crazy people, knock it off. This is what we need to do to win.
He was a ballet dancer.
He was?
Yes.
Oh, who knew that, man? Greg.
And he's a heterosexual
Who isn't?
Oh my gosh. Judge, so the New York Times, and to another point of oil and water, is science and politics.
Oil and water, got it?
Oil and water.
Pretty sure it's vinegar.
This was Pamela Paul. She was a Dem, and she changed, and well, she's still a Dem, but she says this about her party. More than 14,000 American children had gender-related medical interventions between 2019 and 23. While much of Europe has been pulling back from the gender affirmation model, evidence emerged that in the U.S., proponents of this approach have let politics color science. So what about hail the science, Dr. Fauci? We don't listen to science on the left.
Well, the interesting thing about all of this is that it is so exaggerated in this country, and Europe is ahead of us, obviously, on this, because they now recognize the damage that was done. I have a couple of thoughts, Greg. The first one is to you. AOC dropping her pronouns. I think there's a reason for that, and we'll know in a couple of months what that reason is.
You leave me pregnant with thought.
Yes, very good. Okay, and my second point is kudos to this congressman, because his familial status is more important than political ideology. Third thing, you got to understand as a parent, when you have a child, and most of us here have, and hopefully all will, but when you have a child, you love them immediately. You watch them grow. You go to their first game in sports, and then you get up early and take them to practice. And at night, they're late with practice, and you pick them up. And then they go to college, and some of them play sports in college. And then all of a sudden, this little girl, like my Kiki, all right, now all of a sudden, if she wants to play soccer, she's got some guy named Jeffrey who wants to call himself Janice, who's going to spike a volleyball at her head. And to make matters worse, afterwards, he's going to see her in the shower. Yeah. This is absolute lunacy. And so now the trans are staging some kind of rally at Moulton's home. And I would think that those protesters haven't played sports, and that every one of those the protesters at the congressman's house, they should pick up a football, a basketball, a volleyball, whatever it is, and do hoops or whatever game they can, and then see if they are well enough as a woman to compete with a man, and then see how long they make it.
Just don't make it skins and shirts.
Right. Harold, Republicans spent $77 million on ads on the trans issue alone. And it's not Moulton who's the only one upset. Democrats apparently were clamoring with Schumer. We got to do something here because this issue killed us.
We talked about it a lot on this show. I think, and I've tried to say this, just because you're asking people to listen and that people are concerned about an issue doesn't make you racist or fascist or Hitler. Seth Moulton is a tough, decorated Marine. The people who are talking about him, I want to know how many of you served. How many of you picked up a gun and shot it on behalf of the country and tried to protect the country? That doesn't make him above you, but that makes it where you should listen to him. He didn't say, I have two daughters and you guys are wrong. He said, I have two daughters and I want to at least have a conversation about this. Two, this campaign, I agree with a lot that's been said about what Trump and how all these things have happened in this campaign, but every presidential campaign, something dramatic happens. Obama, something dramatic happened. Clinton, something dramatic happened. W. Bush, H.W. Bush. What I really think this election did, what Donald Trump did was he eulogized both the Republican Party of old and the Democratic Party of old. The Republican Party now is the voice and the face through Donald Trump of working class Americans. And many of the issues that we've talked about here, and particularly this one, is one that resonates and one that animated and catalyzed people to go out and vote. When independents, to your point, Judge, the majority, or the biggest issue for many independents that voted in the battleground states was this issue. And I don't think that they do not like trans kids, or they don't like gay kids, or they don't like lesbians or men whom are gay. What they don't like is what we talked about here. It was a brilliant move on the part of the Trump campaign to make this issue about sports and bathrooms. And as a father of a 10-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, it's something that resonates with me. Oil and water. This stuff doesn't, what Democrats have to understand is you can't talk about cultural priorities unless they're actually the priorities of the country. And this issue here was not a priority of the American people overall. And if Democrats don't figure this out, we're going to have more nights like this every November, every 4 years.
Well, that was brilliant analysis, Harold. I hope your party doesn't listen to you. All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.